I asked you guys to hit me with your wildest Destiny 2 takes, and I'm going to be reacting to them today. Disjunction is a good map for 6v6. People just don't like it because most maps we play on are built around 4v4. The extra 4 people just add to the unbalanced nature of spawns. Wow, coming in hot right out the gate. I mean, yeah, it's true that a lot of maps in D2 were built around the idea of 4v4, but I'll disagree and say there is no way that's the only reason people don't like Disjunction. Just because we've been conditioned or spoiled, and Disjunction is a true 6v6 map or something like that. Disjunction is just an unarguably, inexcusably large map. From spawning so far back in the absolute deepest part of the map, you have to run a freaking 5k to get anywhere near to where the combat takes place. It also just flows so terribly, and every time I play it, I have to double check what PvP game type I'm in, because if I can quit out without getting hit by any kind of quitter penalty, then I don't know, I might actually do that. The best armor mod in the game is Fastball, and the best weapon mod is Counterbalance stock, and it's not even close. Yeah, this is just flat out wrong. Sure, Fastball feels really good in PvP, but the best armor mod in the game? I mean, if we're talking PvP, unflinching and targeting mods come into play way more often than Fastball. Likewise with things like Utility Kickstart, Grenade Kickstart, even Weapon Dexterity when that armor mod is not broken. And by the way, I assume we're talking PvP only, because if we're including PvE, I don't think I have enough time in this video to list all the armor mods more helpful than Fastball. And Counterbalance being the best weapon mod, I feel would only be true if you put it on the vast majority of weapons you had, and why would anyone do that? Why would I put Counterbalance on a shotgun or a sniper? I mainly put them on fusion rifles and pulse rifles based on how the recoil system works. And by the way, if your weapon already has a really high recoil direction, like say 95, why would you put a Counterbalance on it at that point? It definitely can be very helpful, but man, that is some diehard mod fandom. Flawless rating should be required for the raid title. If you can beat Master every challenge and Triumph, you should be able to do the raid without dying. Man, I really hope I don't get torn apart by my own community for what I'm about to say, but I actually agree. Any D2 vet who has a raid title that included the mandatory challenge of being able to do the entire raid without dying, I instantly have a ton of respect and admiration for that player when compared to, say, a different raid title that doesn't require a no-death run. It's still challenging to get the raid title either way for sure, but being able to do an entire raid without not only a single wipe, but without a single death on the fire team, that is some next level gamer stuff, and I would love it if Bungie decided to bring that back for future raid titles. Highly doubt they would, by the way, want to make that clear, because I think a lot of people would complain, but yeah, if Bungie is going to straight up, quote, bring challenge back to Destiny, put your money where your mouth is on that one, boys. Arctitan is totally balanced in PvP. A totally 100% not bait comment. The community in D1 was a way better overall vibe. I still get down with the D2 community though. That take actually came up a lot, and I'm gonna go ahead and partially disagree. D1 was definitely a really fun time and a really fun game, but just like D2, there were major ups and downs in both the game and in the community. I remember a lot of drama, especially coming from the PvP side of things in D1. There was a lot of toxicity coming from the upper levels of PvP, including from some people who were actually content creators at the time. Not all of them, of course, but many were just constantly being obnoxious and picking fights and throwing shade. I feel like a lot of them have moved on to different games or just flat out don't stream anymore, but there were just so many times when dumb drama was kicked up. There were plenty of really good times, and I think as a whole, the community morale was probably much higher overall throughout the entirety of D1 than where we are now with D2. But yeah, again, I have plenty of memories of horrible D1 community drama. Stasis meta wasn't that bad. Oh yeah, now we're breaking at the copium, baby. Yeah, I have nightmares of how wild D2 was when Stasis first dropped into the game. If you're too new of a player to know what that looks like, consider yourself lucky. Your frozen duration was longer, and if you mashed to break out of being frozen early, you took a comical amount of damage, so you were basically screwed no matter what you did. Shadebinder Warlock with Claws of Ahamkara could single-handedly run any lobby with minimum effort. It was just a huge shit show. I think to a degree, my and a lot of other players' faith in Bungie actually started to wane solely due to how hard Stasis dropped into PvP. It just made me wonder how much they actually playtested it before going live, because it was so blatantly going to crush the meta under its boot like a high-class dominatrix. They should rip PvP from the game after the final shape and focus solely on PvE. Here's one I just flat out disagree with. While I do agree that Destiny 2 PvP in its current state will never be esports, I still view it as a vital piece of what makes Destiny feel like Destiny. Taking PvP out of the game, even with how much people complain about it, would IMO be a bad move overall. The active player population of the game would completely tank overnight. It wouldn't completely go away, of course, but a giant portion of players would immediately pack it in and walk away forever. If Bungie really focused hard on delivering a ton of new and fresh PvE content in that scenario, though, it is possible that the player numbers would slowly return over time and the PvE side of the game could flourish like maybe never before. But yeah, it wouldn't feel like Destiny to me, and there would likely be chaos in the community overall. Bungie doesn't want Destiny to be great. Yeah, making money is overrated. Clan triumphs should not be a requirement for titles. Oh, how goddamn based a take this is. To me, nowhere near a hot or wild take, but I gotta throw it in just for how hard I agree. Title requirements should be challenging. Title requirements should not be just a thinly veiled excuse to encourage and promote the clan system in D2. Giving out raid belts for reprised raids is fucking bull and a cheap cop-out. All right, kind of a challenging one from my boy Glad. I do get where he's coming from, but ultimately I kinda disagree. If y'all feel differently, that is fine, but I will personally always be a bit more impressed by a team who has won a day one raid race on a completely brand new raid as opposed to a reprised raid, because that team had to both figure out the new mechanics and go hard in the DPS department while executing those new mechanics flawlessly. Alternatively, a team who wins worlds first on a reprised raid race, yeah, the mechanics aren't going to be wildly different from the original raid, but they still needed to be a perfect team and they needed to burn through the raid faster than any other team out there, which is no small feat. It's less of a marathon, but more of a sprint, and I'll be damned if I'm going to pretend that getting worlds first in any raid isn't a giant accomplishment, because it is. Ah, the duality of man. Regarding the PC tweet, I feel like I felt that way when the launch of D2 expanded to include PC. I think the leap to PC has been, without question, better for the growth of the D2 community overall. But I do hate how, more than anything, it created a huge rift in the community between console and PC. Console and PC D2 players are like cats and dogs. They are constantly going at it with each other, and there seems to be a lot of resentment from both sides, which is kind of sad to see. I do get the issue that a lot of people want to cut out old console support from Destiny because they feel that old consoles are holding back the future of the franchise from a technical standpoint. But to say that consoles are the root of all problems in the game, I mean, that's kind of absurd. Gambit is a good game mode that, if given just a little bit of love, would see a lot more play. God help me, but I actually agree. I've been saying forever that one simple change would immediately make a lot more people care about Gambit: the introduction of some kind of adept Gambit weapon. I don't know about you, but if I could get something like an adept borrowed time or an adept bottom dollar, I would actually have no problem jumping into and grinding the hell out of Gambit. The game type definitely does need tweaking, but it's not that bad overall. Again, the main reason I almost never touch it is because I have no reason to, outside of maybe getting one or two obscure weapon rolls. But even then, with how many perk options there are on each gun, yeah, not really worth my time. Gambit had the potential to be Destiny's esports scene. Oh, I just know you are taking the piss at this point. Beyond Light was a great expansion. I don't play PvP. All right, you bastard. You made me laugh. Take your like and go. They should take Auto Mantle out of the game. It has made us lazy with our jumping. I'm gonna go ahead and give this the official hell no stamp of approval. I look back on a ton of things from D1 very fondly, but when I've actually gone back and loaded up the game for shits and giggles, I legit actually get angry that mantling is not a thing. Does it make a lot of us lazy with our jumping in D2? Yeah, probably. Is it also a huge quality of life improvement and a big wake-up call to stop viewing D1 through such rose-colored glasses? Yes, it is. Craftable weapons ruined the game by eliminating the chase for god rolls, but now they've opened Pandora's box. Bungie can't go back. This one is rough because I am somewhere in the middle. I, like many other people, was very happy to hear about weapon crafting when it first was introduced. However, it puts the game into a really weird place right now. It hasn't completely killed the the chase for god rolls. For example, the Immortal was a big god roll hunt when it dropped, despite the existence of weapon crafting at the time, just because it was clearly going to be a top shelf weapon. I think the bigger problem than weapon crafting is the wild power creep that seems to get worse and worse each year. For example, when the new Adept Astral Horizon dropped into Trials, I realized halfway through my flawless grind that I didn't actually need the weapon. My 5 out of 5 god roll Imperial Decree is basically the same thing on papers, so why bother with the RNG of getting a good Horizon? However, even if my Imperial Decree wasn't crafted, it would still create the same issue. We just have so much loot in the game at this point that new weapons have a really hard time competing with current god rolls, crafted or otherwise. We have new content to play each week that's engaging to the level of Forsaken. Yeah, that's a take. They're gonna kill off Drifter to justify the removal of Gambit. For the record, I don't believe this is true. I just wanted to include it because if it does happen, I'm going to laugh so hard I will wind up in the hospital. Periodically sunsetting weapons and armor is actually healthy for the game, better balance, and makes new rewards more meaningful. God damn it, I really don't want to, but I feel like I partially agree. I know that sunsetting had a lot of really bad qualities attached to it. For example, feeling that all the time you spent grinding out a certain god roll was wasted because the roll and the gun was inevitably sunset, aka made worthless. But as I mentioned earlier in the part about weapon crafting, we're in a really weird place right now where new loot in Destiny has to be super hot Omega Fire or it's just straight up not going to be able to compete with most of the god rolls in the game. A great example is the brand new rocket launcher introduced in the Solstice event that people have already decided they're flat out not going to grind because it's literally worse than any god roll rocket launcher we probably have laying around in the vault right now. I don't know if I agree with sunsetting armor, but sunsetting weapons could have some benefits with it that would actually give us reasons to care about new loot again. But then again, of course, you have the problem of Bungie sunsetting Weapon A only for them to reintroduce a different weapon that just has the exact same perk pool and stats as formerly sunset Weapon A. Basically just making us regrind identical loot over and over forever. Don't know what the solution is, but yeah, every now and then I wonder about what would happen if sunsetting came back. 3-peaking was fine, actually. Flat out disagree. 3-peaking made Trials way slower and a massive snooze fest overall. As a filthy shotgun ape, it was admittedly a tool to better deal with people who just post up and hardscope with snipers the entire time, but again, having it out of the game is much better IMO for 3v3 overall. Community managers are extremely sensitive. Any small criticism and Bungie will sue you. Yeah, that is an Omega forehead take. For those of you who didn't watch Astacross's video covering the situation, Bungie recently won a big court case against a random bozo who was straight up harassing and stalking former community manager DMG's family. Publicly doxed him, sent threatening and racist text messages and voicemails to DMG and his wife, and basically made it apparent that he not only knew where they lived, but that the threats would not stop. Look, if you give a community manager actual constructive feedback and they either blow you off or just flat out block you, yeah, that's one thing for sure. But calling someone sensitive because they're being stalked and had to get the police involved? Yeah, I've got $100 that says you can correctly identify brands of pepper spray based on taste alone. Jotun should be permanently banned from all PvP activities. I straight up do not understand how some PvP players either view Jotun as overpowered or a gigantic problem weapon. I'll admit I do get annoyed when I'm killed by Jotun in PvP, but 99% of the time I'm annoyed at myself for getting killed by a gun that, in order to avoid, all you gotta do is just strafe in one direction and you'll almost always be fine. Jotun has a comically long charge up time, and if you're actually paying attention and have even somewhat decent movement skills, you should not be frequently getting outgunned by a Jotun player. Shotguns should get an all-around buff to damage and range to kill at farther distances like 10 meters? Are you out of your 10 motherfucker? PvP should have death streaks. Yeah, that's gonna be a no from me, dog. Modern Warfare 2, the OG, will forever be one of my favorite PvP FPS games of all time. A near 10 out of 10 in the fun factor department, but permanently tainted by the inclusion of death streaks. If you don't know, a death streak is any buff or benefit given to a player who has died too many times in PvP in a row without getting a kill. Basically, it is a comeback mechanic to help you if you're getting ran too hard in PvP. And outside of maybe a silly game type like Mayhem or Team Scorched. I don't want death streaks anywhere near PvP. Look, if you're getting wagon circled in Crucible, I really do feel for you. We've all been there. But imagine what that would be like in any other competition. Imagine if in baseball, if one team hadn't gotten any hits in a while, they decided to help them out by giving them free bases loaded at the top of the next inning. If I were the other team, the one in the lead, I would think, wow, what a bunch of horse shit. It's just silly, and IMO PvP would become even more silly with the inclusion of death streaks. Ability spam actually makes things more fun in PvP. Time to kill as the golden benchmark reduces engagements to a coin flip. Sir or madam, I would like to know who your dealer is, and are they looking for more customers? Yeah, that is certainly a take. I'm not sure that time to kill reduces engagements down to a coin flip, because even if your gun has the better time to kill than the other guys, that doesn't mean alone that you're going to win every gunfight that you get into. Player movement, accuracy, strafing, map positioning, team shooting, cover, peek shooting, all these things will have a factor in every PvP engagement. I'd agree that a completely 100% vanilla Destiny with no abilities at all would be probably pretty boring, but I definitely don't agree that ability spam makes things more fun in the Crucible. Thumbs up for actually coming up with a take so hot I'll probably crap fire later tonight though. Destiny would be better off as a single player game Mass Effect style. Yeah, that might be the take to end all takes in today's video. Again, hats off for actually coming in with a hot take, but damn, are there really people out there who want Destiny to be that way? Don't get me wrong, I would actually be very interested in a branch-off game like Mass Effect that takes place in the Destiny universe. But yeah, a standalone side branch experiment game, not the future of the franchise. If Bungie announced Destiny 3 tomorrow and announced that it would be a single-player only game, there would be goddamned pandemonium, and rightfully so. In fact, the only reason I'm still enjoying Destiny at all these days is because even with all of its problems, I still like playing it with my friends. Let me know what your hot take is down in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on stream.